even if you didn't know it, could you guess that orange is one of my favorite colors? Look at these. These are our gorgeous giant cactus mixes. And look at these beautiful colors. Oh my gosh, this soft orange is just really, really beautiful. So friends, let me just drop these back in the bucket. Welcome to Ask a Flower Farmer. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys. This is the once a week where you can ask any question that is about growing cut flowers, whether for profit or pleasure, seed starting, cool flowers, whatever you've got, conditioning, harvesting problems. I will do my best to try to answer it. Now, over here on Instagram, they actually have a place where you can put the questions. It's down at the bottom of your screen, that little bubble with the question mark in it. That way I don't lose your question as the comments fly by. And over in TikTok, if you put the question mark at the head of your comment, I will try to go back through and find those. So this is a time when I just really love trying to tackle some of your questions. And so I want to just bring you up to speed. We are this is in August, right? I don't know if y'all noticed, I have a little jacket on. I'm in southeastern Virginia, and we're kind of having a cool, misty day here today. It's kind of weird, actually. And so I was almost thinking about fixing a pot of coffee. It feels like one of those fall days, and I'm getting the muse, y'all. Look at behind me. All these sunflowers and fall just go together, right? So what's going on here on the farm is tonight at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing my weekly Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live gardening show inside my phone app. And tonight, y'all, I am going through soil blocking, seed starting 101, right? And I just love doing this, y'all. The live gardening shop and show allows me to show y'all how I do stuff, and as we're doing it kind of here on the farm, and then you have the opportunity to get the seeds and supplies. It's really brought two sides of us together. We've always had an online shop. We've had a lot of workshops and educational stuff and books and everything. This puts it all together in one spot. And so I want to say, I just saw a comment go by that I didn't want to miss. I'm in the Cool Flower Workshop, and I have learned so much already. Thank you so much. Y'all just blew us away. We did this special launch the last 10 days. It's ended now. For Cool Flowers, the Cool Flowers Seed to Harvest. Cool Flowers is my book that I wrote. It's about how to get those great spring blooming flowers in your garden. And we had so many people that came into the Cool Flower Workshop, and we're just so grateful for all of you. And I can't wait to hear about all the great results that you have. So if you want to join me tonight in the live gardening show, the way you do that is you just download my free phone app onto your phone, so you can be inside of the app, which means you can submit questions and I can see you, and you can communicate with the other live viewers. It is really a lot of fun, y'all. So we are in that time of the year, because I'm in southeastern Virginia. It's really kind of early for us to start cool season hardy annuals for fall planting. It's too soon. We've already started some cool season hardy annuals for fall blooming. Those are all growing up, getting ready to be planted out. And so we're in this holding period here at the farm where there is a lot to do, but it's a lot of different stuff. We don't have a grow room full. So we're kind of bracing for the onslaught of all the cool flower seed starting. We're getting lots of conditioning questions right now. People are struggling with whether it's zinnia and coxcomb and celoseas, and even sunflower issues. And so let's see, I've got one question over here. Come on, y'all. So I see a question. So y'all remember to put your questions, if you can, down into the bubble with the question mark. And I'm going to go down there and see what our first question is. So what can you still plant in 7A? So 7A is what your winter hardiness zone is. That doesn't really tell you what you can still plant. And I want to encourage, especially the people on TikTok, to please share this live video and invite your friends to come over. And maybe they'll have some great questions too, right? That we can help them answer. The thing that you need to know is what is your last average frost or your first average fall frost. So like for me, mine is mid-November. And so that means so let's just say it's mid-August, basically. August to September to October to November, that's 90 days. So that means that I have 90 days only until my first frost. And so I wouldn't start anything that required over 60 or 70 days. Because in addition to them growing up, then you need to have time for them to bloom and for you to harvest them, right? So it's really about, I know it's confusing. There's 3 pieces of information that you need to know to figure out when and what you plant, warm and cool actually. That is your first and last average frosts, and then what is your winter's lowest temperature. And the winter's lowest temperature, which is your hardiness zone, we talk in temperatures now because the books are international and not everybody has the USDA, right? So the winter hardiness zone and how low your temperature is tells you what you can plant in the fall. Meaning my temperature, let's just say, okay, my winter lowest temperature is 10 degrees, right? And so then you look at, our resources tell you what the lowest winter temperature a cool season hardy annual will take. And you're 10 degrees, and this says that this particular flower is 25 degrees or 15 degrees, or better yet, that means they won't survive my winter. But if you're looking at one and it says it survives 0, that means you can fall plant it. And why would you want to fall plant? You fall plant because when you plant in the fall and those plants have all winter to set up really amazing housekeeping, meaning great roots, they just become super well established before they're going to have to start growing stems and foliage and blooms and face the heat and humidity. They are like rock solid on a foundation. And what happens when that happens, y'all? They bloom earlier, they bloom longer, they bloom typically almost twice as tall, and you get many more stems per plant. And it's all because they're happier and healthier, right? And so that's where that all comes from. That's what your winter hardiness zone actually tells you, is what can you plant in the fall. It's your first frost date that tells you how much time you have left for, if you're talking about for something to bloom in the fall, like grasses and sunflowers. The sunflowers, we plant the pro cuts, which are, that's what's in the bucket right there, and that's the image up there behind me. Those are all pro cuts. They bloom typically in 55 to 60 days. So if you have 55 to 60 days, you're right on the cusp. But if you have that, then you have time. I'm still planting sunflowers every week until into September, okay? So I see we have a couple more questions over here. I'm planning on overwintering some cool flowers for spring. Awesome. I want to plant them into Bio 360. Do I transplant them into the black side or the white side? What a great question. Okay, so this question is that she's going to be fall planting some cool flower transplants. And she's planning on using the biodegradable film, which is what we use. Looks like plastic, works like plastic, except that it's made out of a plant byproduct, which means it becomes biodegradable, so you don't have to worry about lifting it. So when we fall plant, used to be, I feel like such an old person whenever I say this, y'all. Back in the day when I first started growing cool flowers 25 years ago, no question, we put the black side up because it gets cold right on time. By Thanksgiving, we're in deep freeze. and it's cold outside. And so you plant into the black side up to get that solarization, a little bit of benefit from that throughout the winter. But that is not always the case now. So it depends on how you're equipped. So we still plant with the black side up. However, because fall and warmer temperatures tend to go on a little longer, unpredictably, you just don't know when they're going to end. I still plant with the black side up. However, we also install my favorite new thing for cool flowers and summer flowers is we make sun caps. A sun cap is we use those low wire, pre-arched wire hoops, which you can find over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And we use the insect netting and make a little sun cap on top of it. The difference between insect netting and row cover traps more heat, which is exactly what it's made to do, right? Insect netting allows not only more light to get through it, but more heat to escape. So we sun cap and we make it so that the sides are open. We use big jumbo clips to clip the insect netting to the wire hoops. And that literally cools the bed top down and cools the cool flower transplants. We also do that very same technique in the middle of summer. We did this last year and we did it this year. We literally planted transplants out on a day that was like 98 degrees. We had no choice. I mean, it's like it was a heat week. It was high 90s all week. And every 10 feet they would plant, they just rolled out the sun cap and clipped it. And we lost no transplants to heat exhaustion, which is pretty unheard of. Works the very same way with cool flowers. They aren't going to die from heat exhaustion, but the sun cap really cools them. So black side up, if you can do a sun cap, or if you're where you are truly gets cool as you're heading into late fall. We just can't count on that anymore here in the South. So black side up, and we do that also because we make our beds in fall for our very early spring planting of cool flowers, and definitely the black side up for that. Hope that helps. In addition to using chlorine tabs in all your harvest buckets, do you use flower food for each type of flower? Are there any flowers that don't do well with fresh cut flower food? So, yes, we use CVBN tablets, which is a chlorine-based product that kills the bacteria in your water and it kills bacteria in the stem. We use that in all of our buckets. It 100% depends on what's happening to your flowers after that first 24 to 36 hours, right? So for us, we cut on Monday. All the buckets have CVBN in it. The next day on Tuesday, all of those flowers were packed up into different containers and sent off to flower shops. And in those flower shop buckets, because we had their buckets that we packed here on the farm for such a smooth transition, they got holding solution, which is basically flower food without so much food in it. It still has a biocide in it, it has a pH balancer, and light doses of food, so it keeps the stems healthy and green and buds developing, but it doesn't push them to open quickly like regular flower food does, because the end customer still doesn't have the flower, right? And you can find those we call them tea bags, holding tea bags. You can find those at thegardenersworkshop.com. And so the only people that use flower food that we think of, like the little packets that come on your bouquets when you buy flowers, the only people that use true flower food is the end customer. That's the person putting it in the vase to enjoy it, right? Because it has flower food and just makes the flowers just keep developing and changing all the time, right? So I hope that helps. And then your last part of your question is, are there any flowers that don't do well with cut fresh flower food? In my experience, not really. I mean, it's not like, oh, don't use flower food on those flowers. There are some flowers that don't benefit from flower food directly, like basil. they do benefit because it keeps the water clean. See, that's the thing about flower food that people don't understand. In addition to it being food, it's also got a biocide in it that's keeping the water from growing bacteria, which is what the chlorine tablet helped to really get a great start and filled the stem with bacteria-free water, which gives you a couple more days of vase life. Then you follow that up using flower food, which continues that story. And then you, of course, tell your people, you ought to change the water out after 3 or 4 days for sure, and trim your stems. Everything is about flowers die from the stem up. That's where they rot from. And it's being in water. Water grows funky stuff. So hopefully that helps. Doesn't hurt any of them. Some of them just don't gain as much benefit as others. Any tips for marigolds? Planting plugs out this week to be marketed a 1-1. Do they want weekly fertilizer? Any blood pressure to watch for? We will be in Bio 360 with Drip West Texas, Zone 8A. Sounds like you're going to have an awesome crop. So, marigolds are an amazing fall crop, in my opinion. We grow a lot of the white swan marigolds, which have no fragrance, which just shuts people up about complaining about the stink, right? But some people love it, but there's definitely more people that don't. So, all of our beds are prepared with, again, that dry organic fertilizer, which you can see what it is on our website, according to directions. That is incorporated into the soil when the bed is made with the Bio 360. And we don't really do much fertilization beyond that. We just don't ever get to it. We have a pretty fertile soil here from all of our years of building. And then that nice dose when they first get in the ground really does what they need. And so for us, the big bug pressure on marigolds is definitely Japanese beetles. And we're still yesterday, as a matter of fact, maybe it was this morning, I can't remember. I was out there walking in the field looking for something, and I was out in the Planet Pink garden this morning cutting, and literally laying there on a zinnia was a Japanese beetle, and I hadn't really seen any for a week or two. Japanese beetles can have a crazy season, depending on where you are, the temperatures, and the amount of pressure that you actually have. So they would be the ones that I would look for, and what we would do about those is when it's Japanese beetle seasons, first thing in the morning, somebody is filling harvest buckets. I walk out to the marigolds with a plastic bucket, not too big, about this big around, so I can function with it, with dish soap and water, and go out there and just get them off of every bloom. And that they still may damage a bloom this year, but every one female you kill prevents 50, 60, or 100 of next year. So that's all we do about that, but that's what I would keep a real close eye on. But marigolds, in our experience, and is that they just don't have a whole lot of pest pressure other than the marigolds, and wish you the best. And I tell you, they don't seem to normally need a lot of irrigation for us, but of course we get rain very frequently, so you'll have to just figure that out and see what needs to happen. You can come by, sister. In use. All right, so I was gonna look and see if there was any questions over here in TikTok. And friends, would love for you to share this live with your friends. And I don't see any questions here in TikTok. All right, so I did see another question over here in Instagram. So Brittany asks, in Zone 8A, can we plant the majority of cool flowers in the fall before the first frost, or are there some that we need to plant in early spring? So Brittany, I'm 8A. That only tells us what cool flowers will survive our winter. It doesn't tell us when to actually plant them. And so 8A, I plant pretty much all cool flowers with the exception, what don't I plant? I don't plant straw flowers in the fall, and I don't plant stock in the fall. And I think those are the only two. And it's for reasons beyond that they're borderline whether they'll survive, but they just do better planted in very early spring. Your fall planting window is 6 to 8 weeks before your first average fall frost. You need to get that off the internet. Put it in a search engine. What is my first average frost? Put your zip code in and get a number. Get the dates. And that's your target. That's your fall frost. Count back 6 to 8 weeks. And they use that 6 to 8 weeks to become established before cold sets in and they go dormant for the winter, right? And then the challenge for us, those of us that live in warm season areas, like I'm in 8A, southeastern Virginia, I mean, we still go down to 10 or 15 degrees in the winter on occasion. But our problem is that we go normally straight from cold winter straight into hot, humid summer. There's not a lot of spring action around here. Some years we get it, and when we get it, people complain. But that's what spring in like New England is right? You know, where you have cool nights and warmish days. And so, Brittany, depending on what kind of where you are, I don't know why I thought you zone 8A. I saw Can. I thought that said California. So if you're like me, I don't do a whole lot of very early spring planting of sunflowers. Like I would never plant bells of Ireland in very early spring. I don't do snaps in very early spring anymore. And why is that? Because they barely have time to get established before it gets hot and humid. And that they just don't do well. They fall victim to disease. But my fall planted ones do awesome. So yes, 8A, and again, the way you figure that out is all of our resources, the books, the course, our sales pages for our, or you go to our website and go to Bells of Ireland. It tells you right on the Bells of Ireland page what it's winter hardy to. And so you know, when you know yours and you look at each flower you want to grow, and yes, you have to look at each flower you want to grow, y'all. It's different for every flower pretty much. So there's no blanket answer to anything. So I hope that helps you, Brittany. But what I have found is that very early spring planting, and you have to prepare your very early spring planting beds in the fall because the ground is too wet, usually might be covered in snow. I don't know where you are, but we classically can get February and March snows here. My very early spring planting window is Valentine's to March 1st. It is definitely still cold here, but oftentimes we have snow, and there is no preparing soil. You do it in the fall, complete. The bed is ready and waiting. Ours has biodegradable film on them. Sometimes we have been known even on warmish afternoons during that time, if we have snow, to go out there and push broom the snow off the top of our beds, which is easy to do when you have the film on there. But Cool Flowers doesn't mind that, but you have to just get them into the ground. You have to get to the ground. So you can get pretty imaginative. So friends, I don't see any questions over here on TikTok, I do not think. And so what you soon learn once you have success with Cool Flowers, 1 or 2 crops. You know, if you're new to it, I was just sharing with my membership today in the sewing circle. I was recording a masterclass for them, that if you're new to the whole concept of Cool Flowers, you start with 10 or less. You know, that's a lot because you're going to fail if you try to grow a bunch of them and you haven't really mastered how to cool to cold weather garden yet. But when you nail it on just one plant or planting, and you see how much the abundance and the health of these plants when they grow in their preferred conditions of cool to cold weather, they just hit the ground running when spring comes. And they're just absolutely amazing. And that's why I encourage people, don't go overboard your first time around. Pick a few and start them and do it. And the actual master class for my club this coming month in August. And I've never really done this before. I put my 10 go-to starter cool flowers. And why did I pick those? Because they're useful, they're easy starts, and they're really hardy. And if you plant them in the right hardiness zone at the right time for your garden, you're just going to have huge success. So hope that helps y'all, for you to know more about cool flowers and where it all starts. This is, oh, here we go. Got a question over in TikTok. What flower do you recommend to start with for cool weather planting? So, you know, place to start, because there's more to just knowing the right flower. This is the book cover of the book, Cool Flowers. This was the book that I published. It's 11 years old now, believe it or not. And it is the basic concept. It was written for the home gardener based on my years as a flower farmer, on what the basic concept is. And it 100% depends on where you live, what is your first and last frost date, and your winter lowest temperature. I know y'all are tired of hearing me say that, but that is the pivotal life to cool flowers. And once you understand that concept, you can figure out when and what to plant everywhere. And I'll tell you, so my book Cool Flowers was the first book, and it's in the TikTok shop, by the way. And the Cool Flower book explains the concept. My next book, which was the Cut Flower Handbook, takes it a step further. It goes deeper into cool flower gardening, but it also meshes it into warm season gardening, really helping you to create a 3-season cutting garden outdoors in a garden. You know, I have no green or hoop houses, right? And so you just have to get the basic concept down, and you will be able to figure all this out yourself. And I mean, why do you think I can answer questions constantly? And it's not that I know that much, y'all. It's that I know the basic foundation rules, and I've been doing it, right? And until you need to figure out the basic foundation rules, and it starts with the Cool Flower book. And then you do it, and you'll be so successful. And, you know, it just takes a little tweaking. And I'm just telling you, it's so worth figuring it out. All right, this said that we had a question, but we don't really have a question. All right, so thank you guys so much for all the questions. So somebody asking, what's the best eucalyptus? I will tell y'all, I can't wait for eucalyptus season. We have the best stand of eucalyptus out there in my garden that I think I've ever grown. It's first year. So what's the best eucalyptus? So we grow basically 4 types of eucalyptus. I am in an area where eucalyptus doesn't just winter over without protection. And we do try to do that from time to time, because what you soon learn is all eucalyptuses that are able to be wintered over, the second year's growth is 10 times better than the first year's growth. I mean, there's so much more of it and so much abundance. I mean, you know that eucalyptus comes from Australia, right? I did not know this. Do you know that the seeds of eucalyptus, you know how in the past 10 years, the seeds just aren't available for some of the different kinds, and there's just no rhyme or reason? Well, I had no idea. Eucalyptus seed is not cultivated. They actually forage the eucalyptus seed in Australia. Well, Australia has had the most horrible wildfires the last 10 years. That's why we've had no eucalyptus seeds. So it's gotten better in the last, I would say, 2 years. So for many years, we just took whatever eucalyptus seeds we could get our hands on. But the ones that we are currently selling are the 3 favorites of mine. I mean, we just love them for flower arranging, for bouquets, and for selling. So the most popular is Silver Dollar. And then right after that is Parvula Gum. Parvula Gum is one you don't see very often. It's almost like a dark evergreen, Christmas green color. The leaves are small. I just find it to be so much more useful than any of the other eucalyptus. It's just a nice foliage filler, and that's Parvula Gum. You can find all these seeds, TikTok, well, both of you, Instagram and TikTok. It's in the shop. that's there. And then the third one, which I just love this one, and this year it's already this tall, y'all. Usually it doesn't get up to my hips, is Polyanthemus. I call it Polyann, but it's Polyanthemus. And Polyanthemus has this big dangling leaf on it, and it is just really, really beautiful. So when do you start eucalyptus? If my last frost date is typically mid-April, you want to plant it right about then. We start the seed in early January. That's how slow it grows. So all eucalyptus are our favorites because we love them all. But the ones that we sell the seed to are the ones that we actually grow successfully from seed. And and we don't, as a rule, while some of them out there are probably ready to be cut, we generally don't cut eucalyptus until the 1st of September. It's almost like a marketing thing that we do. First off, all the team knows you don't cut the eucalyptus. Secondly, we tell customers, we start eucalyptus the 1st of September. That way we're pretty sure it's nice and hardened off and it won't shrivel on the tips. And so that's the story on eucalyptus. So friends, thanks for joining me here today. I'm glad to be here and doing it. And remember, every Wednesday at 3 o'clock on Instagram and TikTok is Ask a Flower Farmer. And we do our best to answer your questions. And I hope it helps. And friends, I hope to see y'all tonight on the live gardening show. I'm doing a soil blocking 101, and I'm introducing our new complete soil blocking complete kit. We've beefed it up a little bit, y'all. And so I'm excited to tell y'all all about that. So friends, until we meet again, ciao. Stand by Instagram. I see I had more questions. I didn't see them till the last minute. All right, so we're off TikTok. Brittany, what is the best time to cut Solidago for long base life? Will it give me more blooms every year? So Solidago, we grow the native invasive one that just is here on my farm. And we use it almost 100% up before it ever starts to bloom because it's an amazing foliage filler. So it lasts a long time. I don't wait till it to bloom. I don't want it to bloom. I don't want it to be yellow. I want it to have green head filler. So I've never cut it for blooms, but I would guess that when less than 20% when you can see 20% yellow at the bottom of the flower, I think they bloom from the flower bottom up. That's when you cut them. That's for the longest base life, but we cut them when they're still green so that we can have them for filler. You said leave cool flowers uncovered in snow, but what about ice? That's a great question. Any frozen precipitation, you always take row covers down because they'll collapse and smother your plant. So ice and snow. How long does it take a transplant to get to 3 inches? That completely depends on the method you're using, the flower you're growing, and your conditions and your skill as a grower. That's why I say size of plant instead of saying growing it for 4 or 5 weeks. I grow transplants pretty quick because I have tweaked my growing area to make my transplants happy. So it just really depends on what flower you're talking about. In general, either 2 to 3 weeks for like zinnias and sunflowers, up to 4 to 6 weeks for most other branching annuals, and then you just heard me say eucalyptus is 12 to 16 weeks. So it can vary. It just depends from flower to flower. All right, my friends, I am signing off now. Thanks so much for joining me. Until we meet again, friends. Ciao.